Hello, 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 everybody. How are you today? It's day 30 of the 30-day coloring challenge. And as I say that, don't worry, there'll be another one. But so anyways, I'm just saying that because today's the last day. But I wanted to share this card. The day one and day two, I try and do something cool. And this is kind of like a play, kind of like I Spy. You see how the flowers are on the cup? I don't know. I don't know. There's a word to say what this is, but I can't think of it. So we'll just go ahead and get started. So let's start. This is an alt news stamp set. I love this. I love china and dishes. So of course I love this saucer and cup stamp set. So I just wanted to show you how this background came together. So I'm just using some archival black ink because this is on some watercolor paper that I found in my stash, so don't even ask what it is. I hate that it's not white, but the whole thing's going to be colored. So, and then I'm using yes, whatever, I'll link to it. I'm using one of Alt News Gorgeous Flower stamp sets and some of their butterflies. So I want to stamp the butterfly in the mug. So I'm going to mask off the butterflies and that's it, because I want the exact same flowers to be on the cup and saucer and on the background. So like a play on flowers, but I can't think of what this is called. So anyway, so I'm just using some masking paper here to mask off the two butterflies. You could also use Post-it note or there's other things. Okay, so now we're going to, I like to stamp flowers I like to go in a row, kind of a vertical row. Well, not necessarily vertical, but so anyway, let's get started. So I'm using the same archival ink, and what I'm going to do is first I'm taking some off that flower there, and then I'm laying out where it's going to go, and then I'll ink it up, and then I put some, so it's a second generation stamping on the background. I could have used like a light gray or something, but I didn't have one, and you know, you just got to make work what you have. So you see I keep putting that white piece of paper because the first stamp I want on the white paper, and then the second stamp, it's called second generation stamping, that'll be on my project. So I hope that made sense. So the first stamp took some of the ink off, and then the second generation stamping comes out kind of like a light gray on the background. Now I have just a couple of distressing purples, and I have them in this palette. I just kind of smoosh them on the palette and then add some water. And I have a brush here, and I'm just doing a very simple watercolored background. I'm starting to learn to do the background first. I used to kind of do it last, and this is way better, way easier. So I just am kind of mixing those. My brush is fairly wet, but not too wet, and I'm just kind of moving along the paper. I'm not worried about some areas are a little more purple, a little more blue. You know, that doesn't matter. So I'm just moving around. And then I'm going to watercolor. I want the background to be more faint, you know, just lighter, softer, like a wallpaper. And then I want the butterflies and the cup and saucer to stand out. So it's hard for me to just get a light color on the background. The only way I can achieve that is with distress ink. So that's why I chose that for my backgrounds, because they're not as highly pigmented as some other watercolors. And clearly I need more practice. But anyway, okay, so now I've got some deeper violet purples of distress inks, and I think I'll list them in the supplies and have them on my blog. But you just use what you have. The point is just to have this stand out more. So I have a smaller brush here, and I'm just putting down a layer of color on the back, the background of the mug, and then I'll come back later and add a little bit more, another color just for a little bit of interest. So first, like anything, usually you put down that base layer and then you come back. I do the same thing with Copic markers, with colored pencils. You're just kind of building up some color, and then you come back and add a little bit more. I apologize, we're on the edge of the frame here. So I'm just working around the mug here, and then we'll move on. Now this is some violet. I'm adding a darker, like blue violet to this. I guess while the paper's wet, that makes sense. I haven't watercolored in so long, and I'm just adding that. You can come back and add to it when it's dry as well. You just don't, I've learned from Dawn from W+9, you don't want to oversaturate your paper. Now I'm just adding a layer to the butterflies and just playing around. I am not one to coach you on watercoloring. I guess I can tell you what not to do. Don't add too much water. So anyway, while I do that, I just want to thank you again. I know I did a video 2 days ago, and in case you missed it, but I just wanted to thank you all so much for coloring with me for 30 days. Whether you shared or not, I got your energy, and you guys just make me do it over and over because, like I said, I'm not good at communicating, but it's just such a special time, a special 30 days for me every single time I do it. I'm just so inspired. I'm just a whole range of emotions. So let's just leave it at that. Okay, so today we're going to add some accents with watercolor pencils. I haven't used them, I don't think, this whole challenge. And they're really easy to use. So I have that base layer of color on the leaves, and I have a sharp watercolored pencil here, and you can see that I'm just adding a darker color to the tips. I think this just makes it easier to shade with. So I'm just using a brush, slightly damp. If it's too much water, I put the brush on my towel, and I just want to give those leaves a little bit of color variation for the background. I just want it to, even though I want it not to be the focus, I still want it to look interesting. And when I say this is so easy, trust me, it is. So I suggest you just wash on a background and then come back with a watercolored pencil just on the tip, and you'll see how easy this is. So like always, I start out slow and then I speed up because time is valuable. So while I finish this, well, here we go. We're back now. I'm doing the same thing on the roses, and this is a background, and this is a water, kind of like wallpaper. So it really doesn't have to look any special way, but I just wanted to add a little bit of depth to the flowers, but I didn't want to spend a lot of time. So I'm kind of doing the same thing I did with the petals, except I'm adding some of this soft pink watercolored pencil in the corners and then like a line. Now I want to show you something else. This is a Tombow blender pen, and because they have some wonderful markers, Tombow watercolor markers, and they're very vibrant and bold, and I wanted a soft look. So I used the watercolor pencil, and now I'm using their blender marker, and I'm just using that kind of like you would use a Copic Zero blender or an eraser. You're just going over that line, and it softens it and blends it. And then every now and then I go back and add a little bit more color if I miss something. Ooh, sorry about that. Okay, so you'll notice that sometimes I get too much color on the tip of this blender pen, so I'll scribble it on some scrap paper to take the color off, because I don't want I want to keep that sweet spot on the petals. So if I have too much color on the tip, then I won't have that white sweet spot. So every now and then you'll see me go onto the paper when I get too much color on the tip of that. And you know, I don't know what the solution is in this blender pen, but you do have to be careful. If you use it too much, you can pill your paper, you know, where some of the paper lifts up and you get little nubbies. Now this is another watercolor technique that you can try, and I love doing it this way. So I have a watercolor pencil in my hand and a brush in the other one. I know you see that. So in case you're not looking, I'm narrating for you. So what I'm doing is my brush is wet and I'm picking up some of that color off the pencil. And I don't know, there's something really fun about this way. It's just, I enjoy it. Now I'm just putting down the first layer of color on the mug. I want to be very careful that I hit the right spots of these flowers, because half of the flower is the background and half is the design on the cup. So right now, right here, I just have to be a little bit careful, and then I can come back and add more color. So I really wish that I had more time. I wanted to kind of do this background, foreground stamping thing on another card, you know, with some other stamps. And there were so many things I wanted to do during the challenge that, you know, when life gets in the way, you just don't have time. And I know you guys know that. And, you know, my mantra always was, you know, it's only 10 minutes a day, but I know that some of you it's not, because some of you are very active in the Facebook group or on Instagram, and I know it's more of a time commitment. So I wanted to thank you for that. And if you didn't do that, that's okay. Don't feel bad. This whole challenge is about feeling good. So I'm just working this color here. And one thing that you can also do if you're watercoloring and you find that you have just too much color, you can spray it with a water bottle and just get a nice mist on it, and then put like a paper towel down on it or a towel and just lift it up, and that'll remove some of the color. Now I've picked up like a turquoisey kind of watercolor pencil, and I'm just doing the same thing here. Sometimes I like to look at my card while I'm talking about this. But I guess I realized that green just wasn't enough color. I needed more bold, so I picked up this other color. One thing that I'm doing here that is not very smart is I'm working right over my paper with a pencil, and that's stupid, because sometimes if your brush is too wet, you can get little dot splatters from that pencil onto your project. So it's really smarter to hold the pencil away from what you're coloring to pick up that color on the tip of your brush. Now I'm just adding another layer of color onto these butterflies. I used the pencil direct to the paper, and now I'm just moving that around with my brush. So really, this is just a watercolor play session. There's different techniques you can use, you know, take your brush and put it on the tip of your pencil, apply the pencil directly to the paper and just wash that out. And then, what was the third one? Yikes. Oh, okay. Use like a blender pen, like the Tombow blender pen, just to wash out, blend, or get that sweet spot. Now I have a red, and I want to add some depth or more interest to those flowers. So I'm just doing the same thing as I did on the background, except I'm using a red, and I'm being super careful to kind of leave that sweet spot. Are you guys tired of hearing that? I sure hope not, because I'm sure that'd be really annoying. If you have a better suggestion, let me know. I'm always open for suggestions. Now, and always, if your paper, just be aware of how wet your paper is, because if it's getting too wet, you might not want to add the pencil directly to the paper. Okay, so I think you've got this down. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up. Hold on a sec. Okay, so I just cut that little part off. So my paper is dry. I probably went and had lunch or something, and I have my fine tip Sharpie marker. And for some reason, when you're watercoloring, that black line just gets faded. I guess the opaqueness of the watercolor covers it up or something. So anyways, I always want to go over it with my fine tip Sharpie black marker. And when you're doing something like this, you don't have to think. It's a good time to call your friend and put them on speakerphone. That's what I'm doing here. And it was too much to crop her out, so she doesn't watch my videos, so she won't know that she's on camera here. So it's kind of funny. But now I'm just being very careful because I like to use textured watercolor paper. So when you're doing the Sharpie thing, just go slow, take your time, start from one end of the line, and know where you're going to finish that line. Does that make sense? You don't need to do the whole circle all at once. You want to break it up into like half or something. So I always like to say I've been doing this since I started stamping, going over with a Sharpie marker. So I'm not copying anybody. Just have to say that. Okay, so now I'm adding some more distress ink to my palette here. And I'm a little bit too close to my paper. I should have a little bit of protection over the top of that background. And I just, you know how like fine china always has like an edge around a mug and a saucer? I just felt like I needed a little bit more. So I'm just adding a darker rim to my mug and saucer. I drew a line. Well, did I draw a line? I don't think I did. I don't know. I think I did. Whatever. You can draw a line to help guide you, or you can just use your brush and kind of free form it. And then I'm going to carry that line down on the saucer too. Sometimes a white line would look good, or gold. There's a gold marker, but some of those, there's like a gold gel pen that would be really pretty, but I think it's made by the Sakura, the white gel pen people. But anyway, sorry, I'm just rambling on. You guys would probably rather listen to music than me ramble. Okay, so I have this color that I'm working with, so I just want to add another layer of color to my mug, my watercoloring. And now I'm using some white gel pen. The butterfly is completely dry. And like always, I like to warm the gel pen up on my finger. And I'm just adding a series of dots to the butterflies. Now, always remember, go slow and let it flow. If you go slow, you're giving it time for that ink to pool out of the pen, the marker pen. And then I like to add just a white line to that handle. And then I'm going to add a white line, since this is so dark, just to the background. See, it just, I don't know, white just adds something. It just makes things pop. And when this is dry, then I'm going to add a black dot with my Sharpie marker to the white dots, because I'm just into double dotting lately. Double dip and double dots. And I stamp the sentiment with the same ink, the archival black ink. And I just like to check to see if all the letters are nice and bold. And then I'm just cleaning up some lines with my Sharpie marker. And now I'm adding that white, the black to the white. Now you don't want to press too hard, but experiment with this on some scrap paper first. But sometimes you pick up a little white on the Sharpie tip. So then I just scribble it off on the side and then the white comes off. And then I go back to adding the dots to the white gel pen. But it just, I don't know, I just love the look of this. I hope you like it too. I don't know what's wrong with my mic. It's so hard for me to sit still, so I kind of wiggle around in my chair, and if my mouth gets too close to my mic, it makes those annoying sounds, and I've turned it way down so it doesn't do it, but it still does. I need to call Christina. She always saves me in these situations. So I colored a twine bow, and I'm going to add that to the handle. You've seen me do it before, but I take a Copic marker and I run it along the edge of the neutral twine to custom color it. And I've tied it in a bow, and now I'm going to add some glossy accents. I did a little bit too much there, so I'm removing some with my paper piercer. And I'm going to set that down and then hold it down with the paper piercer so it's nice and flat. And just hold it down for a few minutes. And then I kind of like fluff up the ends, and that's it. I'll list all the supplies in the description, and I hope you'll check out my blog. But thank you again for making the challenge so awesome. I love you guys. Thank you. Mwah.